personally have the feeling that everybody should work a minimum wage job at some point or other. That way, they understand the trials and tribulations that a modern food service worker has to go through, or anybody else who makes minimum wage. I have been put through the ringer when it comes to jobs. I have had all sorts of minimum wage jobs, and I have enough horror stories to make anybody cringe. And I have been, since 2 years ago, kind of slowly going down the list of different horror stories and things that I've gone through as a minimum wage employee. And this video is absolutely no different. But if you've never seen my videos before, hi, my name is Ash. I post speed paints and art-related videos and the occasional shenanigan from time to time. So if that's something that you'd like, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified when I post. My notification team is tiny, but they are mighty. And comment down below, what is the absolute worst job you've ever had? Or if you haven't worked anywhere, what is your dream job? I would like to know and discuss it with you. Like I said, I have had many a different job in the years that I have been old enough to work, and today we're going to be talking about specifically when I worked in a deli inside a grocery store. Now, grocery is one beast. Fast food is another beast. Working at a deli in the grocery store is take the worst aspects of both of those jobs and throw them together, and that's the job. That's the job. I had been working there for about 1.5 years, and I was supposed to be not the opener, but the person who would come in after the opener, like right when the deli opens, and basically start the day proper. And I walk in and I notice all the lights are off, which is normal. So I was just thinking that maybe the opener hadn't turned off the lights yet. And I walk in, the opener is not there. She had just basically no call, no shows. I begin freaking out just a little bit. Since I was the only person there, it fell on me. And keep in mind, the deli was supposed to be open at this point. I'm rushing around, the lights are still off, and I was going to keep the lights off for as long as possible until I basically was yelled at by a manager to turn the lights on. I'm throwing the soups that we have in our steamer, and I catch something out of the corner of my eye. And at first I'm like, okay, it's morning. I'm super tired. I wasn't like nearly caffeinated enough. I had basically just bought my energy drink for the day. I hadn't even opened it. And so I thought that it was like, okay, maybe I'm a little sleepy. But I looked to the ground after I throw the soups in the steamer, and right by my feet, running past me, was the biggest rat I had ever seen in my entire life. The noise that came out of me was not something that I could control. I think I said something along the lines of, oh my god. Anyways, I had called my manager at this point already, telling him that our opener had no called, no showed. And I call him again saying, hey, by the way, there's a rat in here. And he's immediately like, oh, okay, well, we'll set traps. And I'm like, we need to call the health department. We need to call the health department. And he sighs and he's like, if you feel like you need to call the health department, call the health department. But all they are going to do is tell you to set traps. And then you set traps. They're not going to do anything about that other than that. And so I don't call health department because he was making it seem like I was doing something wrong. I remember it running into a little, basically it was like a little alcove in the deli behind the counter, and I did not go there for the longest time because I love animals. I love small creatures. I don't like rats. I don't like them. I don't like rats. I don't like them. I don't like feral little wild rats, especially in a food place. And so I basically just was like, okay, that's his domain now. I'll let my manager set the traps, and that's completely fine, and it'll get caught eventually, right? And I hadn't had rodents in a house or a restaurant before, so I didn't know the protocol for anything. I was basically telling everybody, hey, keep the floors really clean, that way it doesn't come out here, and then it will go away on its own, basically. Flash forward to like 3 months later, I'm now an assistant manager, and I'm basically telling everybody, hey, keep the floors clean and everything like that. I do see a packet of cheese that had somehow gotten swept underneath our ovens, and I pull it out and I see that there are chew marks. And I immediately get flashed back to, oh crap, there's the rat, which we had at this point lovingly named Pikachu, but he was my arch nemesis. My one and only purpose at that deli was to destroy him. I would have stress dreams about this rat, and I would come in and I would keep as far away from that area as possible, and coming in whenever I opened, I would make as much noise as possible. I would roll around our little trash cans to make as much of a ruckus to kind of scare him from coming out. Being like, there's people here, leave me alone, don't come anywhere near me, because I will freak out. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get my manager to do something about this rat, because I noticed that it's still around. I knew that it was still around. And every single time he would put out traps and we would talk to our extermination service that we had with the grocery store, it was always like, oh yeah, no, it's probably just like a little mouse, maybe like 2 or 3 inches long from nose to tail. And I'm like, no. That thing was a $5 foot long. That dude was huge. That was a New York rat in Arizona. That dude could vote. He was big and he was chonky. It was Biggie Cheese inside our deli. But no, I was the person who was being dramatic. I was the person who was hysterical about all of this. But anyways, I pull out this packet and I see that there's a little thing of cheese that has been chewed through and eaten. And I was closing that day, so I had a little plan. Maybe this wasn't like safe to do, but like I had thought that this was a good idea at the time because I was like 19. I went to our pest control area because I knew that the tiny little mouse traps weren't gonna do anything, and the bigger like catch traps that they had, that wasn't gonna fit him, that wasn't gonna hold him. So I grabbed a little bit of rat poison. If you don't like rat poison, that's fine. I didn't know what to do, and I had thrown it underneath the oven where the cheese had been found, and I left a little bit of cheese there too. And I was like, that'll get him. That'll be fine. I come back the next morning and the rat poison's gone. It's just completely gone. So I wasn't sure if the other closer that I was with had swept the floors and swept that up, or if it was eaten. My wishful thinking was that it was eaten and that rat will be dead soon. So I had thought that our little Pikachu problem was gone, and I was finally resting easy until I saw him again. And it was another day where my opener had not come in, and I came in at 7, and he was just out and about, and he ran back to his spot, and I was immediately like seeing red. I was so pissed. I was so angry. And so I basically started going on a strict cleaning regimen and everything. I was like, there is not to be any food on the floors. We are not putting any food on the floors. We are sweeping under every single table. We are making sure the floor is completely clean, which shouldn't be a lot to ask whenever you're doing closing shifts, but that's fine. And then health department comes in. And they see our little snap traps for the rat. And they tell us, that's not food safe. No, of course it's not food safe. That's why it's on the floor. And they basically told us, you guys need to get rid of those traps and only do the little catch traps that they have. And so we had gotten rid of them at first, but we kept a few. It's fine, we kept a few. And then our health and safety guy comes in afterwards, not health department, but specifically the person from our company that is in charge of like health and safety. He comes in and I tell him about our little Pikachu problem, and he is like, okay, cool. Where do you think it goes all the time? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know exactly where it goes because I watched him go in there. It was specifically, he would go in this wall that basically, it wasn't, you know those refrigerated wall displays? On the other side, that was our wall, and so he had gone into one of those, and that's where he was. He goes and he sticks his arm in. He sticks his arm in there. Why would you stick your arm in there when you know that there's a rat? And I was kind of freaking out at this point. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't stick your arm in there because I know for a fact that he's still around. And he's just like, no, it's fine. He's asleep. And he pulls out mustard and mayonnaise packets, which we had plenty of, and we kept them near that area. We didn't keep them like on the floor or anything. That rat can't get to them. So I'm guessing it was those packets that would get dropped on the floor or something, but it was chewed through and completely like sucked dry. Just empty packets of mustard and mayo that were chewed through. So this dude was living off of mustard and mayonnaise for over a year. Because at this point, it had been a year. Freaking out, because that means that this dude probably just got so much bigger. So, flash forward another like 6 months, I had found a new job and I had put in my 2 weeks notice. So I was kind of just writing out everything. I was chilling. I wasn't like going like above and beyond or anything like that. And I was starting to think, you know what? I think Pikachu is just part of the deli now. I think he's just an employee here. He should get like tenure or something. I don't know. He didn't really come out or bother anybody. So I wasn't like, he was there, but he wasn't. And I never went in the area that he was in. That was his office. But I was opening with somebody else, and as I had opened the doors to go through, I thought I had saw something out of the corner of my eye, but I wasn't quite sure. That's typically how Pikachu operated. He was just a little blur in the corner of my vision, to the point where I thought that I was going insane. I thought that I was losing my mind. It's fine. I can have a little mentee breakdown as a treat. We're in the middle of opening, and my manager finally clocks in and comes in, and he turns the corner by our food prep table, basically clear opposite of the area that Pikachu was usually in, and I hear him go, "Oh, Pikachu!" And I immediately tense up. I'm like, is this it? This is the showdown. This is what we were made for. We grab an empty salad box, and my manager starts chasing him around the deli because this dude was huge. And if I thought that he was huge when I had first seen him, this man was a kaiju now. This dude was Godzilla of rats. We needed a mech to fight him. It was a lot. And my manager has a box. He's chasing him around the deli. And eventually the rat squeezed in between the swinging door that we had and is out on the floor. And keep in mind, the store is open. Nobody's in the deli area, thankfully, so we were able to kind of keep it under wraps, but he's over by our little island that has all of our fancy cheeses, and he finally stops just for a second because there's nowhere to run. And that's when my manager slams down the box, and this box was sizable and it still couldn't quite fit him because we had to jiggle around the box to make sure his tail was underneath there, and we closed the box. And I felt relieved for a moment. He closed the box and he picked it up, and this rat was in the box. I take one look at Pikachu and I can kind of hear him scurrying in there, which kind of makes my skin crawl. And I ask him, "What are you going to do with it now?" And he looks at it and he says, "I'm going to throw it in the dumpster." He goes outside to our parking lot, not our dumpster, but rather our parking lot shares a parking lot with a gas station, and it's clear on the other end of the parking lot. He throws it in there and he comes back. And just like that, Pikachu is gone. And at first, there's this catharsis of he's gone. He's finally gone. I can finally rest. But I started to get sad of Pikachu, my best friend, my enemy. He was gone, and without him, the deli wasn't the same. And so I wrote out the rest of my 2 weeks feeling different, not having stress dreams anymore. And when I left, the deli felt emptier. But anyways, that's the story of how I lost my mind because of a freaking rat inside the deli. It took us 2.5 years to actually catch him, and once I was done, I don't know if that made me feel better. Mostly because I was mad because it was 2 years of my manager and the assistant manager before me straight up not believing me on how big he was, because if they had believed me even for a second on how big he was, they would have caught him a lot faster because none of the traps that we had were big enough to fit him. Even the biggest little catch trap that we had was half his size. He was too tall for it. Like I said, this man could enlist in the military. That wasn't a rat, that was a skeever. A capybara with a tail. That was a person. I feel like he was sentient. It felt like he was sentient sometimes. Anyways, this was my little story. I know that I was going to start doing these work stories and work horror stories and make them animated. However, animation is a lot of work, and I am working on a comic right now, so I can't really do all those things at the same time and have them come out at a reasonable time. So I am gonna start doing these with speed paints, just because those are easier to make. But yeah, no, what was your worst job that you've ever worked? And if you haven't worked, actually no, what is the job that you don't want to work at all? What job would you rather like die than have? Because there's a couple of those that I have. Anyways, leave those in the comments and I will be checking them and replying to them, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!